I can't believe that in the postseason predictions video that we made, even though I had this matchup going on in my second round bracket, I did not think in any respect to mention the tagline or the money fight, the matchup here, and acknowledge the greatness that is Edmonton versus Vegas. And the reason I say it like that is because two of the best players in the entire gosh darn world are going to be facing off against each other in this series. But not in just some regular, oh, it's McDavid versus, I don't know, Drew Doughty type of way or whatever. Draisaitl versus Kempe, Fiala. This is a story that actually does have some meat to the bone. Today, we are previewing the Vegas versus Edmonton series, and we are talking about the ultimate matchup between the two players on top of the food chain, Connor McDavid versus Jack Eichel. And if that's a conversation that sounds a little bit familiar, it should. Because this was the raging debate back in 2014-15, when these guys were eligible to being drafted. Now, I say debate as in, okay, it seems like there's one side or the other, but really it was not a debate. It was just kind of, okay, everybody knows that Jack Eichel in that time frame was one of the best prospects we had ever seen up to that point. Best NCAA guy since Paul Kariya. And he was a guy that if he had been eligible in any prior year, he probably would have gone first too. Eichel had a more impressive draft season than Aaron Ekblad. He had a more impressive season than Nathan MacKinnon, you could debate. You could say the same thing about Neil Yakupov and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Not to mention Taylor Hall too. So for Eichel, he was one of the best prospects the NHL had seen in years. Just an absolute American workhorse in the NCAA. The problem was, he was going up in the draft against a guy that was touted as the best prospect since Sidney Crosby, period. And McDavid ended up taking the first overall honors because of that. Now everybody knows today that McDavid and Eichel are not in the same tier. McDavid is in a tier of his own. Eichel is in the tier of very, very good. He still needs to break 100 points on a season too. We can't forget about that. But when it comes to that McDavid versus Eichel debate, I remember there were even some naysayers, some contrarians back in 2014-15 saying, hey, Connor McDavid, while he is skilled, while he is fast, while he can score points, he is not the same workhorse like Eichel. He does not have the same motor like Eichel. He doesn't have the same physical attributes like Eichel. There were a few conversations that I remember people talking about back then. Now, of course, they didn't really get anywhere. They didn't really pick up too much steam. There wasn't anybody that I felt definitively thought that Eichel was the best prospect, but there was a conversation to be had about it if anybody wanted to listen. That was just kind of the status quo of 2014-15. Nevertheless, Eichel went number 2, McDavid went number 1. Eichel went on to have a very strange career with the Buffalo Sabres, as everybody kind of knows that he was a superstar player there. He was the captain there too. But after giving up on the team essentially, and not really allowing the team's plan with his neck to go through, the entire surgery fiasco was huge back in 2021. Eichel ended up getting traded to the Vegas Golden Knights, where this season he had 66 points in 67 games played. Now, of course, Eichel is still a talented player, but he's no Connor McDavid. As we had said, his career high in points was 82 in 77 games played. Now, assuming he plays a full season, he's probably going to be able to get that 85, 90, maybe even 100-point marker sometime soon. It's just for Connor McDavid, the guy has done it so many times that it's really difficult to keep track of where he's going to go next. I mean, posting up one of the best seasons the NHL has ever seen by somebody not named Mario or Wayne is quite impressive. 153 points in 82 games played. Connor McDavid had almost 100 more points than Eichel. Of course, that's not really too interesting of a stat. Everybody knows how good McDavid is at producing, but it is an interesting narrative to point out that 8 years later, after all the conversations about McDavid and Eichel 1 and 2 in 2015, we are finally seeing these guys meet in the playoffs for the first time. Hopefully it's not going to be the last time too, because Vegas is a pretty good team, Edmonton has a pretty good squad too. We'll probably be seeing a few more playoff matchups between these two heading into the next few years, but when it comes to the head-to-head matchup for this season, this is Sportsnet Stats, they tweeted this out earlier yesterday. The stage is set for round 2 of the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and the Oilers won the season series versus the Golden Knights 3-0-1. In the 22-23 regular season, the Oilers won 3 games. They lost another one in extra time. They scored 18 goals versus the Vegas Golden Knights 14. The Oilers were 5 for 9 on the power play, so 55.6%, and the Golden Knights were 1 for 10. And then the shots on goal, the Golden Knights edge out the Oilers by 2.3 shots. Now, these are very basic stats. It's not really too deep or whatever, so if we're going to go over to the actual game scores, in Game 1, Edmonton versus Vegas from November 19th, the Oilers won 4-3. In Game 2, January 14th, the Oilers also won 4-3. Game 3, March 25th, the Vegas Golden Knights won 4-3. In overtime, it was a Nick Waugh goal, and then Game 4, that happened 3 days later, Edmonton spanked Vegas, winning 7-4. So this is a high-flying series, just based off of what we had seen in the regular season. The Oilers know how to score goals. The Golden Knights, I mean, they kind of know how to score as well, but realistically, this is going to be Edmonton's game to lose, mostly if you take the momentum of the season series and you try to apply it to the playoffs. Now, when it comes to playoff pedigree, it's going to be interesting to note because a lot of these Golden Knights have had deep playoff runs in the past. Even their captain, Mark Stone, had that third-round run with the Senators all those years ago. But when it comes to their top guys, Jack Eichel has never played in the playoffs before. The 1 year he was with Vegas last season, he ended up missing the playoffs there too. So it was interesting to note that this is going to be his first time there. Now, Eichel is a point per game in the postseason right now. He's got 5 points in 5 games played against the Winnipeg Jets. Connor McDavid, also over a point per game. He's got 10 points in 6 games versus the LA Kings. But of course, the Oilers made it to the 3rd round last season only to get spanked by the Colorado Avalanche, so there is a little bit of depth there in this lineup. There's a lot of vengeance that I feel a lot of these players want to go out there and execute on the league and on the playoffs, so really, when it comes to the matchup, I don't know who's going to want it more. Obviously, they're going to both want it. They're both teams of players that are playing this sport for a living, but when it comes to Vegas versus Edmonton, it wouldn't surprise me either way if either of these teams are going to go out there and find a way to get it done. But if it were up to me, I feel like Edmonton, especially capitalizing on what they had last year, the experience they garnered after beating the Kings and then the Flames, they're probably going to take that momentum into this series. And I mean, look, in my bracket, I had the Oilers beating the Golden Knights, so I'm going to stick with that prediction right here. Connor McDavid is better than Jack Eichel. The Oilers, I feel, are a little bit more of a hotter team than the Golden Knights. I feel like Vegas just kind of played a crappy Winnipeg team that didn't show up, which sort of negates the momentum they were able to build in this year's playoff run. Does that kind of make sense? I feel like Vegas just kind of had it easy against a Winnipeg team that didn't give their best. And so there is an opportunity for them to maybe fumble the bag a little bit in the 2nd round. Meanwhile, the Oilers played off against an LA squad that fought them down to the bone. It was a tight series, tight games, lots of scoring, and the Oilers came out on top despite some mistakes by Stuart Skinner, you know? It was nice to see them pull out that victory last night. So either way, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I think Edmonton is going to take this one, but if you're a fan of either of these teams, then let me know your opinions in the comment section below. Am I missing anything when it comes to analyzing this playoff series? Do you think there's more to the Jack Eichel, Connor McDavid story? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj, and bye.